WECU 1570 AM and W298BX 107.5 FM, Winterville, North Carolina.
Motivations with Glenn.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Glenn Johnson Show, Motivations with Glenn and Apostle Jacqueline Collins Williams, here on Awesome Radio, 107.5 FM, 1570 AM, WECU. Today we have a very special guest, Ms. Laura Hensley, to share her conversation on brain injury and family strength. Uh, our guest is a brain injury survivor, an advocate, and also family caregiver and support group leader. Today, we're delving into a topic that touches countless lives, yet often remains hidden in plain sight. So it remains hidden in plain sight. The journey living with a brain injury and the incredible strength and patience required from those who love them. Our guest today, Laura Hensley, is here to share her unique insights and experience. She is an author also with a book entitled The Red Hat. And I'd like to mention this before I turn it over to Apostle Jackie. Listeners, should you desire a copy of the book, and we have 5 copies to give away, myself and Apostle Jacqueline are disqualified, so we cannot participate in the book giveaway because we are hostess of the show, so we are disqualified. But our listeners, should you desire a copy of the book, please don't hesitate to call, and you'll be live on the broadcast. And just mention you would like a copy of the book. The phone number to call, 252-756-2008. Excuse me. You can then call the business line, which is 252-756-3137. When you make contact with the business line, you'll leave your name and schedule a time and date that you can arrive at the station to pick up your copy of the book. Without further ado, I'll have my co-host, Apostle Jacqueline Collins Williams, introduce our special guest, and we'll get to the topic.
Hey, Dr. Glenn, and to our listening audience on today, we are glad that you are here, and we are glad for this subject on today. We are glad to have a guest on with us, and we're just excited to hear her story and look at her wonderful book. I am excited today just to know that she's on with us.
Absolutely.
I'm happy. I'm like, and look at her beautiful smile. For those of you that are watching her or that are able to see her, just a gorgeous smile. It's something to see somebody when you're smiling, and it just does something to your heart.
Well, you know, I'm a male and she's a female, so I'll keep my comments out of it. That's what it is.
Yes,
But
yes,
she
Dr.
is,
Glenn.
she is very beautiful.
Well, I know she has a wonderful smile.
Yes, she does.
And women, we can compliment each other and it be okay. So we are just very glad to have her on today. I wrote her name down here. I need to look at it just again, Dr. Glenn. And it is there. Her name is Laura Hensley, and she is going today to talk to us about having a brain injury, from what I understand, and also talk to us about her book, The Red Hat. I am so interested in that title and to also see exactly what we're talking about with this red hat
Yeah.
and a brain injury survivor. So, without further delay, I am going to turn the microphone over to our guest, Laura Hensley, and we're going to allow her to tell us some things about herself. And we're going to pull back and just let you go. And
Oh, are you sure? Well, it is a privilege,
And
wonderful privilege
five
to
minutes. You have 5
join
minutes.
you today.
You
And
have 5 minutes to do that before we go to the first break.
okay, I really appreciate it. It's wonderful to be on Awesome Radio to share your show today, Dr. Johnson, and yourself. I am so grateful to meet you both and to be able to share. Can I just very briefly show the cover of this children's book, Mommy's Red Hat? Can you see the red
Absolutely.
hat?
It was wonderful. Marvelous.
My daughter and her friends helped design the artwork in the book, and then we had it sent to a professional illustrator. But all the concept art was designed by my daughter and her friends to tell the story of what it was like. She was 3 when I came home from the hospital with this brain injury, and it tells a story of a day sort of in our lives, what it was like, because when I came home from the hospital, yes, I was a brain patient, but I was also a wife and a mom still, even though my abilities had been affected, I still was a wife and a mom.
Yeah.
And I know that that is an unspoken, in many cases, challenge for many families, that you look similar, you look the same, but when you come home, things are very different. And what I wanted to do with this book was create something safe where children could say, yeah, that's how I feel. And I noticed that about my mommy, or I noticed that about my daddy, but I was scared to say. Or by the time they do get the courage to say something, they're so confused by the change. And in my case, we were prepared a little bit better. But because she was 3 years old, I can't say that there was a specific medical support that explained it where she could understand. And so one day she came to me. She was about 5, and she said, "Mommy, why can't you remember what's wrong?" She knew something was wrong. And then in that moment, I thought, wow, I'm not sure if I can adequately explain this to her, because it had never crossed my mind that I, as the patient, would have to explain. So that was really what started my thoughts on creating this, because when my editor and I started looking, there were so few children's books that even tackled this issue. And what's really interesting for me, I've been in community work for about 25 years. And so part of that time, I was making home visits as a social worker to help coordinate care in the home of someone who needed medical help. And some of the patients and their families really made an impact on me because they were dealing with brain injury. So before my accident, I was in their homes I saw some of the struggles. I heard some of the family. I actually saw, from a social work point of view, some of the struggle, but that did not prepare me to experience it. And now that I saw it from that side, and that I would hear what the doctors would say about the patients and their families. But then after I experienced it, and my family has gone through this with me for 14 years, every day, 14 years. I have to say that without the Lord, without Jesus, the prognosis was not positive. And I know maybe you had that same situation, Dr. Johnson, where the doctors are very cautious about giving you or the family hope. And yet I found that hope. I have experienced that hope, and that's why I'm smiling, because there's not a part of this that Jesus did not help us to get through. And we're still getting through. It's still an everyday thing.
Ms. Laura, we have 30 seconds. Apostle Jacqueline Cummins Williams is going to take us up to the break. Then we'll be back with 4 more 10-minute dark times. So if possible, we have 20 seconds if you want to take us out to the break.
Hey, we want you to come right back and listen and finish listening to hearing her story on today, hearing Miss Laura Hensley as she's telling us about what happened concerning her brain injury. We are interested and we're hanging on the edge of our seats. This is Awesome Radio, and we'll be right back with you in a moment. Awesome Radio.
My name is Jayla, and you're to see to my papa, Glenn Johnson, on the radio.
Health Pro is a licensed home care organization and a trusted provider of in-home care services with skilled nursing and personal care services. When your elderly parents live alone, there are many things that can be done to make general housekeeping and personal care easier. We are local and can be reached at 252-364-8114. We are located at 408 West Arlington Boulevard, Suite 101C, Greenville. At Health Pro, our services provide a relief for the aging and the disabled population who prefer to recover in the comfort of their homes. Our services expand beyond the normal, and we are currently serving 17 counties in eastern North Carolina. Veteran personal care services, companion care, sitter care, respite care, private pay home care, pediatric adolescent personal care services are just a few of the many services we offer. Visit our website to see all of the services we offer, healthpronc.com. That's healthpronc.com. Health Pro, 408 West Arlington Boulevard, Suite 101C, Greenville, 252-364-8114. That's 252-364-8114. Health Pro, a local, trusted, leading provider of in-home care services.
I am Miss Mary Cox. I'm Killer Thigpen's mother from Awesome Radio.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Glenn Johnson Show, Motivations with Glenn and Apostle Jacqueline Cummins Williams. So before we went out to the break, our guest was explaining some details about her accident, and she mentioned a couple of things that resonates with me so well. So I would just like to comment on at least one of them, then I'll give it back over to Apostle and our guest. I do have 2 questions for my guest. So the comment I want to make about what she shared with us so far was when she said, you know, sometimes the doctors give up hope. They think that you're going to be one way upon getting discharged. The prognosis could be very, very grim. And she, my guest was absolutely right. The same thing occurred with me. And my prognosis the doctors gave me, they even called my family in to discontinue life support on me because they didn't think I was going to survive. They thought I was just going to pass away. And I remember my daughter told me that they were told that, well, even if you do survive, he's not going to be the same that you ever knew him. So they expected for me to be a vegetable. But like Miss Laura said, she turned to Jesus Christ, put the Lord in it, and God. And that's exactly what my family did. My family said, no, you don't understand. He is a spiritual a Christian. We are a Christian family. It's in God's hands. He's walking out there one day. So I walked out after 3 years. So what you shared was absolutely correct. Before I give it back over to Apostle and you, my 2 questions is this. I'll make it short. When you said your daughter helped with the cover of the book that read at, that was it your daughter Sophia? Sophia.
Yes.
Is that how you pronounce it? Sophia.
Yes, Sophia.
Good. I don't want to be standing corrected. But anyway, now, my second question is, so you know a lot of things to do, but you mentioned something about social worker, and you have been a social worker for 13 years prior to the accident, or you continue your social work?
Well, unfortunately, when I tried to go back, because I thought it was going to be a breeze, the neurologist at the time said, "Oh, we don't want you to lose your career. We're going to send you back. You're going to." At that point, it was about a year after, and I had gone through 9 months of outpatient rehab, and they said, "We think you're ready to go back to work now." And so I go back, and I was not ever cleared to go back on the road and drive.
Yeah.
And then keeping up with the details. So I ended up needing to do, a retirement from social work. And so what I'm doing now is I am working with a local crisis pregnancy center, and I don't get to keep full-time hours, but it's very meaningful to me to continue to give back to the community. My entire career was based on helping people and helping families. And so I may not be working with the same families with the health care, but our local pregnancy center does so many wonderful things for the community and for children, which is my heart. And do I have a moment, Jacqueline, to mention something funny that happened after I came home from the hospital? Do you mind if I share that?
You definitely have time. We have much time left on the broadcast, and we're interested in hearing it.
Okay. Well, so when I came home from the hospital, I had some broken bones, so I was in a wheelchair. And so my little girl, she thought I did that for fun. And one day she was on one side of the house and I was on the other, and she yells, I hear from the other room, she goes, "Mommy, get on your bicycle and come here." And it was so cute. It just sort of broke the ice. I thought, I'm going to eventually get back to walking. And so when they graduated me to a walker, she said, "Well, I want to be a princess too." And she literally stood between me and the top of the walker and held on with her hands like this and would walk with me. So everywhere I walked with my walker, she said, "Well, I'm going too. I'm a princess too. You're a princess, Mommy?" And so am I. And that just, seeing things from her point of view, she didn't see it as anything but Mommy's having fun. So.
Yeah, that's very interesting too, because I'll share this with you before I give it back over to Apostle. So when I came out of my coma that I was in for 2 years, of course I had to learn how to walk and all that stuff over again. So when they finally got me back to being mobile, I was walking with a walker. I was out of the wheelchair. Then I was still in Philadelphia at the nursing facility. Then one of my cousins from the Jersey Shore came to pick me up to take me down to the Jersey Shore to see my mom. And I have never walked unattended prior to that. We got to my mother's house. I got out of the car and just started walking to her front door. My cousin looked at me and pointed at me and said, "Glenn, look." I said, what? He said, "You're walking." I said, "Oh my God, I am walking." And I didn't realize I was doing it. I intended to get the walker out of the trunk of his car and take the walker and walk up to the front door. I was walking unassisted.
Wow.
I could not believe it. I said, "You see, that's nothing but God."
that's in a moment you just don't, it stays with you. It's just an amazing,
Yeah,
it's like a miracle moment. It really is, isn't it?
and that's what it is, a miracle moment. I
It is
didn't
a
want to
miracle.
wait for your story, so I'll give it right back over to Apostle.
We're glad to get right back on, and we're going to get right back to hearing her story. But I did have a question that I think we need to address, not just for myself, because I know I'm wondering, and I know our listening audience is going to be wondering as well. And I think it wasn't mentioned right at the beginning as she began to tell us about her story, Miss Laura. Will you tell us how or what happened that you acquired your brain injury? Was it from an accident? That's what I'm assuming when you said a wheelchair. But I just want to make sure that we clarify that for our listeners did, and let us know how you obtained your brain injury.
Yes. Well, have you ever heard that you're more likely to have a motor vehicle accident within a couple miles of your own home than you are out somewhere else? That is exactly what happened. The closest intersection with the light change, that's where I was. And I was just a couple minutes from my house. And you know how I guess you relax, you're not really, I had gone through that intersection 10,000 times. And at that point, the light turned. I didn't realize the light had turned. And so when I got out in the intersection, there was an SUV coming, and I did not have the opportunity to get out of the way. So that day, the attending state trooper, he said he pulled out, because I talked with him later, he pulled out a fatality report, and he said, I was getting ready to fill that out based on the scene. And he said, I was very shocked when they said that I still had a chance, and they airlifted me to CMC in Charlotte. And he said I was the only one up to that point in his career that had survived that kind of a accident. And I knew then, I think all of our family and friends knew that that was the Lord and that he had a purpose. And I can't say that there's not been a lot of struggle even with that, because when I came home, I was more optimistic about how things were going to go than probably I should have been. And I realized that many things have happened to build my faith, and that God did not promise that everything was going to go like we wanted it to go.
I'm sorry,
But yet he said, I'll never leave you.
I'm sorry, Ms. Laura. We have another 30 seconds before we go to the second break. Then we'll be back with our 30-minute talk time. Apostle.
Yes, we want you to hang in there and come back, because I know she's going to tell us some more things about what happened throughout her situation and how she overcame. And I am just blessed to hear her talk about the Lord and how the Lord has helped her to get through that. We can't make it anywhere or through anything without the Lord. This is Awesome Radio. We will be right back in a moment.
Hello, my name is Tracy, and you're listening to Awesome Radio 107.5 FM, 1570 AM, WECU Radio. Thank you.
What is your right to pray at work if you're a Christian? Stay tuned.
Legal perspectives on the tough issues Christians in secular workplaces today are facing. This is the Legal Alert with attorney David Gibbs Jr. of the Christian Law Association.
Sarah was a marketing executive, and she started each workday with a quiet moment of prayer at her desk. A new manager questioned her practice, citing company policies that discouraged any kind of personal activities during work hours. Sarah said, I'm not taking but just a moment or two to pray, and I'm not disturbing anybody, and I've always done that my whole life. Sarah contacted us at the Christian Law Association, and our attorneys informed the manager over Sarah she had every legal right to express her faith and to pray. After hearing their arguments, the manager allowed Sarah to continue her routine so it does not disrupt his work. And the bottom line is Sarah is now protected in the workplace. Prayer is an absolute right that the law protects.
You can speak to one of our legal missionary attorneys without charge 24 hours a day. Call 888-252-1969. That's 888-252-1969. Or if you prefer, 888-CLA-1969.
Celebrating Juneteenth, Wednesday, June 18th, from 4:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. at 252 Main Street, Winterville. It's Market on the Square in Winterville. Vendors, food trucks, games, music. Help Winterville celebrate Juneteenth on Wednesday, June 18th. 4:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. at 252 Main Street, Winterville. Visit the Winterville Chamber at wintervillechamber.com/MOTS. Market on the Square. We're going to have a great time at the Juneteenth celebration, Wednesday, June 18th at 252 Main Street from 4:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Winterville. A slice of the good life.
We're back. You're listening to The Glenn Johnson Show. You can reach Glenn at glennjohnsonshow@gmail.com.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Glenn Johnson Show. All the faces of Glenn and Apostle Jacqueline Collins Williams. We have our very special guest on today, Ms. Laura Hensley, who's a survivor of a brain injury. And I just want to mention, although she's a survivor, that accident that she encountered was so severe, she had to be airlifted, like she mentioned. So I'm not going to hesitate and take up too much more time because it's the final 30 minutes. And we do want her to get to her book. We have copies of her book available here at the station. If you will call in and desire a copy of the book, call in now. 252-756-2008. Once you call in, you can then contact the business office at 252-756-3137 to arrange a date and time to pick up your copy of the book. So without further ado, we're going to go right back over to Ms. Laura Hensley.
Thank you. And I don't know if you could relate to this, Apostle Jacqueline, but you know, when you're at home and you think, oh, I'm the lady of the house, I should be able to keep up with everything. You should be able to just get in the kitchen and keep up with everybody's schedule. And it became very clear after I came home that my ability to keep up with all those things had been affected. And it was very hard for me to admit to my family just how much help I needed. And I just want to say thank you to my husband, my children, my family. They are godly and they really had to step in. They really had to step in.
Yes, as you were talking, I literally was writing down the words over here and I wrote this as you were talking, and I said, we know, that when an occurrence, the impact that an occurrence can happen, but we really don't know the depth of how deep an accident or occurrence, how the impact that it can have on a family. We're on the outside looking in, and then when you're telling me that, after your accident, there was just a change with everything, we don't realize, that we need to thank God every day. And even when something happens, he will take us, he can recover us, he can help, he can restore us, he can heal us. But it's just something to think about just going, you were just going somewhere during a normal day, and then an accident just changed your whole life.
Yes.
Your work and your job and shifted everything, and you still had children and family to take care of. That's a great thing, and I'm just saying that you look good. I mean, I'm looking at how God has blessed you and how, he's had great mercy. I mean, we got to thank him, and we've got to just give him honor because nobody can do it like God can do it. And I just want to say, I can hear, and having a 3-year-old, I know that under just regular circumstances, that a 3-year-old can be liquid fire or just all a bundle of energy and running here and there. And I just want to say that you made it through, taking care of a 3-year-old with an injury. It's a great accomplishment to say that you made it.
That's right. That is
How
right.
how old are is your child? Is that the only child, and how old is she now?
Well, my husband and I had an older daughter who was, I believe, 17. And she and my husband were just so instrumental about stepping in when they saw me struggle. Oh, and I'll tell you this, the struggles that people can't even see, because for the first year, I was sick every day because my vision was so bad I couldn't read. And I would try to pick up my Bible, nothing, I couldn't even make out the letters. And it took me a long time because I didn't understand why my vision was so affected. But I had had a skull fracture in the back. And when I was in the rehab at the hospital, I remember one day I was really struggling. I said, I'm just really not able to do this today. And I was kind of complaining to one of the therapists. And she said, Laura, she said, can I tell you where your skull fracture was? And she said, it was very close to the vertebrae, that if it had been there, you would have been a quadriplegic. And that's how you would have woken up. And so from that point on, I knew that it was so close. I'd say within a couple centimeters, it was very, very close. And the day that they told me that I was going to be able to recover, the doctor that actually told me that I was going to recover was in a wheelchair himself. And he actually smiled and give our family hope, and told my husband it was nice to see someone with the ability to get better, because I understand that there's a lot of people that end up in neurotrauma units in North Carolina that they don't get better, or at least not to the extent where they can go back home, they can drive, they can be a caregiver, they can participate in their own family life. And that's what I encountered as a social worker. The brain injury patients that I met, most of them had very limited ability to even participate in their own home. What goes on in their own home, they couldn't make the decisions, they couldn't get themselves anywhere. And so I realized then how unbelievably blessed I have been. And that's not to say, it's not to say that there's not been a lot of bumps. If that makes any sense, there's been a lot of bumps along the way.
And what you just mentioned is one of the reasons why the Brain Injury Association of North Carolina has intervened to make it better for children. And they notified all hospitals in North Carolina that when they receive a young person in the emergency room, they want them to be evaluated thoroughly. They don't want a child to come in with a little bump on his head or a scratch on his head. Just give him a Band-Aid and walk out of the emergency room. They want to take it further. They want the child to be examined for brain injury itself, because they don't want a little bump on the head end up being a brain injury.
Yes, and yes, I had that in mind as well when we started designing the book. And what I told my editor what I needed to do was to create a book that when you looked at the picture, you got the message, you felt it, you believed it. And so when my daughter and her friends started drawing the concepts, it came from young people. And I thought, wow, they know exactly how to portray when they're struggling with something. And when you look at the pictures, even if you covered up the words, you can pretty much tell what Sophia's going through.
Yeah.
And the confusion, and sitting there, she's sitting in this big chair, and the doctor's trying to explain that your mother had a concussion, and this requires a big discussion, because now she mismatches your socks, and now she is not able to play with your toys with you like she did before. And I can see where kids would say, is it me? Does my mommy still love me? Like, there were times when, I had the other issues as far as being much more angry than I used to be. And countless times I've tried to explain to my family, I've had to apologize and just say, listen, this is not what not the way I want to handle the situation. But in the book, Sophie handles the situation really well, where I really don't know where the hat is. The whole time I have lost, as I usually do, I lose something and I say, Sophie, where is what I've lost?
Yeah.
And so we go through the whole house trying to figure out where the red hat is, which represents, in a sense, the brain injury itself, because the mommy, who should be the one in control or the one making decisions, has had to go to a family member and say, I can't find this.
And
Can you help?
that's what we're going to get into next when we come from the next break, because we'll be down to our final 20 minutes of today's broadcast. And we definitely want Miss Laura to give us more information about our book. I'm going to have 2 questions for her when we come back. And we'll start the topic on Mommy's Red Hat. Apostle.
Yes, we want you to hang on in there with us and come right back to here in our last 20 minutes. We are going to hear some more about the book, and I'm excited about hearing about Mommy's Red Hat. This is Awesome Radio. We'll be right back with you in a moment. Awesome Radio.
Keep it locked right here to the Glenn Johnson Show.
This is Global Perspective.
At the end of his famous Sermon on the Mount, Jesus made a powerful statement. He said, "Everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock." He then said, "But everyone who hears these words of mine and does not put them into practice is like a foolish man who built his house on sand." In America, we have access to the Word of God, Christian radio, churches, and other ministries that enable us to be well-versed in God's Word, so we can be those wise men and women who build our houses on the rock. Let's be careful to do that. And as we do, let's pray for those in places like Africa, where millions are still waiting to have access to the Word of God in their own language, so they can have the chance to know God and live according to His Word.
Global Perspective is brought to you by New Life Africa Networks. For more information, go to globalradio.us.
Hello, my name is Daniel from Greenville. We appreciate you for listening to Awesome Radio 107.5 FM, 1570 AM, WECU Radio in Greenville.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Glenn Johnson Show. Motivations with Glenn and Apostle Jacqueline Collins-Williams, and our special guest today, Ms. Laura Hensley. We have reached the final 20 minutes of today's broadcast, and we finally got down to the moment where Ms. Laura Hensley can discuss her book, Mommy's Red Hat, all happening now here on Awesome Radio. So, Apostle, you want to bring our guests back on?
Yes, we're going to welcome right on back onto this platform Miss Laura, and she's going to continue to tell us about this Mommy's Red Hat. At least I heard a little bit about it, and I can kind of I've gotten a picture of what the book is about, and I think that's a great way of depicting and also displaying so that young people can understand about having a traumatic brain injury or some of the things that others may have to deal with that have a traumatic brain injury. So we're going to, without further ado, we're going to turn it right back over to Miss Laura. Ms. Laura?
Thank you so much. One of the pages of the book, it was very important to me to just depict what a day might be like, and in a easy to understand way for children to understand. Part of the book talks about mommy needing naps, a little bit of extra TLC, and maybe some milk and cookies. And if the lights are hurting her eyes, to turn down the lights. And sometimes she gets headaches if the light is too bright. And there's other things that it says, well, loving kindness and care is what mommy will get anytime she gets tired or just plain forgets. And I think any mom who gets busy with their day, any mom would want that loving kindness and care for any situation where the mommy you think, well, mommy usually handles this. And sometimes we get those moments where as much as you love your family, you need a little extra TLC. And that was how I wanted to talk about brain injury, to say, you know what, we're a family who loves. We're a family who understands and gives that extra TLC sometimes. And at the end, Sophia finally says, Mommy, I just have to say, your hat has been on your head all day. And so it allows the opportunity for Sophia to say, you know what, Mommy, you ask me probably every day where my hat is, but because I love you, I'm going to answer it again today. And that is really the way brain injury can be, because there are times I know Sophie gets so tired of every single day. Where's this? Where's that? It's such a common thing. And I wanted children to really know how important they are.
And
Yes.
Thanks for saying it, because sometimes I think I need a red hat. I'm looking all over for my eyeglasses, and they're on top of my head. But Ms. Laura, as you continue, I have a question for you.
Okay.
So you know how the Brain Injury Association has an unmasking brain injury, where they give out masks and you color all the parts that's related to your brain injury, and they have them on display in Raleigh at the Brain Injury Association. Have you submitted a mask?
No, I didn't realize I could. I'd be happy to.
All right, when I get off tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon, I'll send you information. Because actually, I have 2 masks from the Brain Injury Association I have yet to complete, because I can't draw words for lick. He's just sitting in my room, unmasked, if you will. And I maybe we'll talk about something else. Maybe the Brain Injury would be inspired to have one of your books on display at the Brain Injury Association.
Oh, that would be great.
You want to continue with your book, so we'll
Well,
let you continue now.
Well, I believe that children, whether they realize it or not, play such a healing role in the family member who comes home. And when you're facing, oh, I thought I was going to go back to work, but you didn't. You thought your memory was going to bounce right back, and I ate every kind of health food known to man and made myself sick, thinking that, well, if I just eat the right food, my memory's going to come back.
Yeah.
But what I've learned, if I had it to do over again, what I would do is spend as much time as possible listening to the Word of God. The Bible talks about the Word having life in it itself. It is life. And so I have made a commitment, and I've seen a change. In the last couple of years, I've made a commitment to read through the Bible once every year. And I stick to that every year. I'm like, well, here's another year. I get to read your Word again. And I realize that it takes me a long time to comprehend, but that's okay, because with the Word being life itself, I have seen some significant improvements. And I've been able to get off some of my medicine, which the doctor said, Laura, you'll never get off. He said you'll take this medicine the rest of your life. And somehow, through the Word and committing every day to learning more about Him, He's bringing healing into my life, which I'm sure y'all know the same.
And that's what the Word of God says, is to draw nigh unto Him, and He'll draw nigh unto you. And you know, the Bible says that the Word is quick and powerful and sharper than any two-edged sword. That's a quickening power of the Word, to listen to it and to hear it. I know exactly what you're talking about. I listen, and even in my home, I listen to the Word. We play it even as we're sleeping at night. So when we wake up in the night, we're hearing the Word. Sometimes I hear and I'm mouthing the Word as I wake up and hear it and then go back to sleep.
Oh, that's awesome. That's fantastic.
It is a powerful thing, and it is life and healing, just like you said in the word. That is an awesome thing. You know, sometimes people may not know what to do, or they're at their wits' end. And for you to tell them today that just embracing the word was healing for you, that caused you to heal and caused you to go forth, you know, just having him there is just, it makes a difference than being alone and not having God in your situation. And that's a powerful thing, you know, one of the powerful things that you said today. I love that, Miss Laura.
And Apostle mentioned earlier how God can restore things in your life.
Yes.
I'm going to make mention about the scripture. Joel, I believe it's Joel chapter 21, verse 2. If I'm not mistaken, Lord Jesus, please don't let me mistake the Lord's word. But 21:2 says, God can restore what is broken and to change it into something amazing. All you have to have is faith.
The 23rd Psalm says, He restoreth my soul. He will restore your soul. He'll restore the livelihood. He'll restore your thinking. Oh, he is just a healer. And he wants to heal us, but we just have to reach out to him and allow him to do it. Dr. Glenn said, send me that.
Yeah, I need that. I need that.
Everybody knows 23rd Psalms, Dr. Glenn. It's always on the wall and on different people's houses and every place.
You know, I got a brain injury.
Oh, yes.
I have a permanent injury to my cerebellum, so I can't always hold things in my head. You know, they say keep it in the back of your head. Well, I can't. But cerebellum's in the back of my head. My cerebellum is permanently injured. So I have difficulty keeping things in the back of my head.
That's all right, Dr. Glenn. I'm going to send it to you, and I'm going to make sure you get that Psalms 23. He restored my soul.
That's right.
That's one of the awesome things about our God. And so we're getting ready to go out. I think this is our last break, right?
It is the last break.
And when we come back, we're going to allow our guest to just tell us a few more things that she wants the people to know before we get ready to end the broadcast.
Yeah.
So I want you to hang on in there with us and come back. This is so interesting, and I'm so blessed by hearing her and just seeing, I don't know, I call it freshness, the freshness of God. Dr. Glenn?
And don't forget, we still have 5 books to give away. If you call us at the next 10-minute segment, 252-756-2008. Back in a moment.
My name is Jayla, and you're to see to my papa, Glenn Johnson, on the radio.
Welcome back. That was very short. So without further ado, this is our final 10 minutes, so we're going to go right back to Ms. Laura Hensley.
Dr. Glenn, I have one thing to say before we get her there. And it hit my mind, and I wrote it down and circled it 3 times on my paper here, or my sticky notes that Dr. Glenn is always telling people that I have over there.
She's sitting over there with all kinds of stuff.
My sticky notes over here. So I understand we're giving away the books on the air. So you could call in and get one of the books for free. But I want to know, because we have been disqualified from that particular thing, I would still like to have one of her books. And how do we purchase the book?
I was going to say, you can find them online. But, you know, as a host of the show, as a co-host of the show, we are going to give any monetary information, because monetary information change. And I think that's in the Awesome Radio Rules and Handbook. Not to mention anything monetary, because monetary amounts get changed, and then people would be like, well, you said this on the air, and it's at the store. So that could be misconstrued as a misrepresentation or false advertising. So we don't do that.
So anyway, I understand that about
you can Google the title of the book, and
Okay.
it'll show you all the locations online where to purchase it from. So I'm not going to make any specific online stores,
thank
but
you.
Ms. Laura, if you will, you can.
Am I allowed to say where it is listed for sale? Can I say that?
I believe you can. Yeah.
Okay, Amazon.
Monetary
If you go on Amazon and put in Mommy's Red Hat, that will show up, and you can order it there.
And I just want to say this. I'd like to have mine signed, a signed copy. I know Dr. Glenn knows you, and he might see you at some place or sometime, but I may have to sit it with him and see if I can get mine signed by you.
We can arrange that. I believe we can. Oh,
But since you
it would
said
be an honor for me to do that.
Since you said that, this is the next thing I'm going to say. Will be a surprise to Miss Laura. I will see her soon, eventually, because she don't know that, but I intend to come see her because I am so thrilled about all the things she shared with us. And plus, I know she knows Miss Susan Fuel very well. Susan Fuel was the facilitator for the Sunday 5:30 Brain Injury Support Group meeting, and I think that's where I first met Miss Laura.
And can I also say that she has graciously made my book, she's incorporated that into a puppet presentation that her and a group goes. And this book was presented to 20 different school librarians in Raleigh a few weeks ago. And I didn't get to see the presentation. I saw a little clip of it, but that was a great honor that the librarians of 20 schools in Raleigh were able to see the book, and they actually read it out loud as part of the.
Yeah, that was
part,
good.
and I'm like, I want a puppet to go along with. I want a puppet to go along with the book, so I may have to work on that. I am working on a companion coloring book, and so I went to a special in Charlotte. It was a special brain injury awareness. It was a walk. It was an awareness walk. And so I was talking to one of the rehab specialists there. I said, "Do you use coloring books?" She said, "Oh yeah, we've got all kind of coloring books." I said, "Like the one that I would design based on the actual symptoms and how to overcome them?" And she said, "Well, no." So it really tickles me, Dr. Johnson and Apostle Jacqueline, how God will give me ideas to tackle this in a different way than is expected. And so that's what really stood out to me when we were doing our research. I'm like, Allison, God is giving me ideas in ways to explain things and present things that seem pretty unique. And I just can't give the Lord enough credit for giving me the ideas and opening the door to get these things done.
Yes, and that's an awesome thing to keep it moving. And, regardless of whether you know it or not, it's almost like a type of ministry that you're doing where you're getting this information out there, especially when you let people know that God is your healer. We have an announcement here, and Dr. Glenn just handed it over to me, and it's called Mommy's Red Hat, Meet the Author. And it's happening August the 24th, 6 through 8 p.m., and it says 1690 Telville Schools. This is, Dr. Glenn, I don't see an address here.
Already.
I think.
I was in that.
You want me to read the bottom? Oh, for me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why I gave it to you.
Okay, he wants me to read. I thought he wanted me to read it on the air. I was like, okay.
No, I think Ms. Laura can clarify what you were talking about. I think that might have occurred already.
Oh, yes, this one has happened already. I'm sorry to our listeners. It has happened already. He wanted me to just have the information about the book and where I could order it. So I'm holding it here, and I'm looking at the picture of Mommy wearing a red hat and a red dress, and the little child there with her dolls and things. Miss Laura, I really wish we had more time that I could delve into a few more things, because I had a couple of questions to ask you about your husband, and I am just all pro-marriage. So I had a few things that I wanted to dig into, but we're getting a little bit lighter on our time here. And just to ask you a few things about him, if you want to take a moment and just tell us, we still have a few minutes left, about how he helped you through this particular injury. And I know it's so much to tell, but just give us a few more things about him.
Well, there for a long time, he had basically had to be mommy and daddy. And because it took me a long time, almost 10 months of rehab outpatient. And that was also to correct my speech. That was to correct many things that I had to get some help using my right hand again. And during that time, he really had to do it all. And there came a moment where I realized when Sophie approached school, my mother was having to come over and dress her. in the mornings because I would look at the clothes and I would say, Mom, I don't know how to match these. That's why in the book there is a line where Sophie's socks are all mismatched because I did that. I knew there were socks, but getting them together, getting their mate, it was a little much. And there's been so many times when I've had to make a joke out in public because I would miscount my change, somebody trying to get checked out at the grocery store. And they'd say, oh, you handed me an extra $5. I'm like, well, that was a tip. And just, I've had to learn to, in situations, try to smile about it. And he has really shouldered a lot of the worry, a lot of the responsibility. And so, at times we have had to reach out for help, and that is true. So what I'm doing is I'm working on a sequel to Mommy's Red Hat, and I am, if the Lord will allow me, to make a book for each person in the family, like what happened with my older daughter and what happened with him, and use it from a child's voice. So it doesn't seem so scary because, our daughters witnessed all of that.
So we can be expecting a volume 2 and a volume 3 to Mommy's Red Hat.
Yes, I have a rough draft. It's called Mommy's Day Out. And because I was so scared to drive. And so Sophie's sitting beside Mommy and saying, Mom,
Yeah.
you can do this.
Final 50 seconds of today's broadcast. And should we need a part 2, we'll talk about that once we broadcast. I'll give you an email or a call tomorrow afternoon, and we'll make that happen.
Thank you so much. This has been such a joy. Such a joy.
I want to say thank you so much, Miss Laura, for joining us and sharing your story with us. I'm sure that our listening audience was very blessed by hearing your testimony and your testament of what happened and what you went through, and even sharing your book and things about your family with Mommy's Red Hat. We will let you know, and I'm just going to turn it back over to Dr. Glenn. I just wanted to say thank you for sharing with us, and God bless you.
God bless you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Laura, for being here. I'm sure the other survivors at the support group meetings are going to love the fact that we finally got a chance to do your show. So I know they're going to be looking forward to it.